Set, go. So we are recording. Welcome to the 15th episode of the Bolo Pascual show. We got Weston Coleman, and I just want to introduce Weston for y'all. So he is a national semi-finalist in debating. He is like a grand finalist in Luzon InterVarsity. One of my first idols in debate when I was starting out. And he is an amazing individual. He has worked in Silicon Valley. He is the founder of Tabber, a tabbing software that is dominating right now in Southeast Asia. And now he's helping and making a difference in the country. And I just want to talk about that during this podcast. Weston, would you like to introduce yourself further?
Thanks, Bolo. You are too kind. I cannot possibly be one of your... You can't idolize me. Like, there's nothing much to idolize. These debate
You being modest and humble is something.
So, hi, I'm Weston. I'm a full-time software developer right now. And I'm working on various projects to help in whatever way I can. So before this, Bolo's right, I was working on debate tabbing software, which is pretty fun because debate has a lot of analytics in it. But right now, I'm working on COVID software. So working on two main projects. One is with the DICT and PCO. So we run the unified dashboard for the Philippines, which is called covid19.gov.ph. The second project we're working on, I think it's a much bigger project, is we run the testing software for the Philippine Red Cross. So our software takes care of 45% of all tests done in the country. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm curious, like, so you were doing tabbing software, you were doing your thing in the private sector, and you've been working on different projects. And starting the pandemic, how did you start getting yourself involved with the government and placing your expertise and efforts and contribution to how to alleviate our country from the pandemic? I know it's a long shot, like how we're gonna be free from COVID, but like, how did it all start? Like, when did you take initiative and why did you take initiative to help out?
Okay, so the story actually started when I forgot. I think Duterte announced it was on lockdown. And when he announced the lockdown, my dad started panicking. He wanted to go out and do grocery shopping, but he thought it was a second coming of Christ, so we have to stock up on every single grocery. So we drove out. We went to Unimart. And on my way out, like, I noticed a few checkpoints. So I took note of them. And then when I went back home, I told my friends about it. I took a screenshot of Google Maps of my area, and I started plotting these checkpoints, and I sent it to my friends. Eventually, the questions got repetitive. The checkpoints kept adding up. And I'm like, this is not scalable. Why don't we just make a simple web application of Google Maps? And you start pinning all these locations there, which is, like, in practice is a lot easier than you think. So when we had the Google Maps set up, a couple of my friends joined. So JB2, one of my high school friends joined. He decided to help me scale the platform to not just include checkpoints, but groceries, banks, pharmacies, and every other single establishment you would need during the lockdown. So we launched the site, and then my high school teacher, Martin Gomez, realized that, hey, we can build something from this. So he joined the team as a consultant and professionalized everything. So we got more engineers on board. We got more data people on board. We got more encoders on board. And so we were able to scale up the platform to include, I think at one point, you were downloading 10,000 data points for the Philippines every time you open the site. And that's when you realize that, our servers are slowing down. We have to find a way to speed things up. Eventually, we got featured in various news publications. And I think that brought us at least to some form of limelight, not exactly the center stage, but enough for people to notice. And so a couple of folks from the IATF reached out and they asked us to build a dashboard for them, which is why we have .gov.ph. So basically they wanted like a unified site that shows you all the COVID related data. On our site, you'll be able to see analytics such as the basics, which would be like number of active cases, the curve that we're trying to flatten, number of deaths, recoveries. But also, we work with doctors, namely Christopher D, Joseph, and Seth, and RJ Lim, to come up with doubling time. So we did a bit of epi analytics to find out like what's a doubling time of COVID in the Philippines, and we broke it down per city, per region, um, and per province. So hopefully this will help people sort of understand if we should enforce stricter lockdowns or if we can relax it.
Mm.
Also on the side, like you can see testing data, like over time, if you click, like we have a map, if you click play, you see the numbers of how many tests were done per testing center ever since COVID started.
Mm.
For non-data people, we have price watch, so you could see like the issuances by the TTI to tell you how much milk to be, how much these different basic necessities should cost, so that people will not be cheated. Or if let's say some in an unfortunate situation someone dies, we have a policy for how you handle the dead on the platform. So basically it's like one portal for everyone to get their information from. That's how we grew. So that's like the first project that we took over.
Mm.
And I think 2 weeks after we started doing this, the Philippine Red Cross reached out, and they were having problems dealing. They had a hard time dealing with their paper system. So basically, the process of testing is you go to the testing site, you get a sheet of paper called the CIF, which is the application form, and you have to fill this out. When you're done filling it out, they stick the barcode and they send that paper to their office. And then you go get swabbed, and your swab goes to the laboratory. So
Mm.
once that is done, and they're able to determine whether you're COVID positive or negative, they have to consider things like get your paper and get your results, and put them together, then tell you the result. This would work if you have like 1,000 people per day, but I think they were scaling up to handle 20,000 at that time, and it became impossible to run this on a purely paper based system. So we built an end-to-end software that basically takes care of collecting patient data. So for example, if you are flying in the Philippines and you land in NAIA 1, 2, or 3, you will be using software. You scan a QR code, you go to our website, you open the form, you type in all your personal information, and then you save that, you get a QR code and a retrieval code sent to your email. The moment you land in the Philippines, you show your QR code to the Philippine Coast Guard, they're able to pull out your file, assign a barcode to you, and then you can go get swabbed. Once you're done swabbing, go to the hotel or any quarantine facility for 24 to 48 hours. And then what happens is we forward that sample to the laboratory, and then medtechs do their thing. They find out if it's negative or positive, and when that's done, we verify the result with a pathologist, and they input it to the system. Then we email you your certificate.
Got it.
We build like that you collect data, medtechs use it in the laboratory, and we inform people. In fact, just this morning we launched a new feature. So if you've done shopping on Lazada or Shopee, you would like if you buy something, it says, "Oh, your package has left the shipping facility in China. It has arrived in the sorting facility in the Philippines." We have the same thing already, where you can track your swab, like at what point in the process it is, so people don't have to wait in the dark. Yeah, that's the two main projects that we're working on, and that's how we got into it.
Awesome. So my question is, for like the audience to understand, if what you were doing is absent, what would it look like? How harder would it take, or like how longer would you get the results and understand where is it? Like if like you weren't, like if that wasn't involved and nobody took initiative to do that, how harder would it be?
Okay, so we'll focus on the Red Cross side of things first. If we weren't doing this, I don't think I don't think the Red Cross would have been able to scale. Maybe the amount of tests they can do per day would be capped at a certain point, or maybe they would have found another tech that can do it. But I think with our software, we're able to deliver on a 24 to 48 hour promise. Before this, before we realized everything, had reports of swabs being unprocessed for over a week. So basically, like the minimum time would be 1 week, and the maximum would be 1 month, because that's
Mm.
how long swap is valid for in the freezer.
So it's like now you lessen the time for about like 5 to 25 days to like now 2 days, something like that.
Yeah,
Extent.
yeah.
Awesome. That is
Um,
easy. I mean, like that is. I don't know. I just want to say that I'm really proud that there are human beings like you that exist who just like I just care and these are the things that I could do and let's do it. And then the government is actually using it and the country is actually benefiting from it. So I just want to acknowledge you for that. And I want to ask the question, like why do you care? So like I understand like these are the things that you've observed. This is like the events that has gone through and all that stuff. But like why do you care? Like why not just like focus on I don't know your business? Why not just focus on like hustling and then gaining more money and all that stuff? Like I just want to know
right.
where is that drive coming from? Because I think like there are a lot of people who have the same capabilities or like maybe more capable, I guess, but like they're just chilling at home and then still making money and you know like making innovations in their own like private companies and all that stuff. But for you, so my understanding is that you're doing this for free, or like for the most part, it's free, and
Everything.
you're doing it with so little funding, and you're making the most out of it. So I think the kind of human being that would be able to pull that off comes from a place that is unique and that is I don't know that has like a strong drive for one person to do that. So I just wanted to know like what's your why or like why do you care?
Dude, you're too nice. I mean, you make me like I'm super altruistic. And in fact, you are too. But I'm gonna say that I am doing this not because I am altruistic, but because I can.
Mm,
So, other parts of this answer. One would be the selfless part, and one would be the selfish part. So for the
okay,
self,
awesome.
I don't think it's because I'm too nice to do it. Like in the course of me programming stuff for people, I've gotten to meet other people trying to do the same thing,
Mm,
but they were held back because they have families or because they're not from a very privileged background, so they can't go full time on this. Like they have to go back to work and earn money to feed their families.
mm,
Um, so that's what's going to pull people back. In my case, I'm very lucky to have save a bit of money, Bitcoin for the win, um, and be able to sustain myself for a bit of time. And because of my unique situation where I have enough money saved up and I don't have other responsibilities, I can do this. And you said something about people with private companies. Like a lot of my friends, they work in family businesses or work for someplace else. If you run your own company, you have a lot of workers that depend on you.
mm,
So we brought a few friends in the manufacturing business to join us, like help us encode data and everything. But the moment we went back to GCQ, they had to stop because now they had to make sure for earning money, not for their own pockets, but so that they can pay something to their workers. Take note,
mm,
like quarantine, you have to spend more money on housing with reduced revenue, spend more money on transportation, make sure that these people are get tested for COVID. It's a very hard position to be in. I'm just very lucky that I don't have any other form of responsibility. So that's like the selfless part.
I see.
Um,
Before we go on to the selfish part, I just want to know, like, so is that your way of checking your own privilege? Like, you don't have like as much responsibilities, like taking care of children, or like you don't have you don't have these employees that you have to make sure that they can feed their families, all that stuff. Is it because like you consistently check your privilege and understand that okay, these are the things that I can do right now. I have a comfortable life and it's a moral obligation that you take on by checking the privileges that you have. Is it kind of like that?
yeah, yeah. Well, technically, it's a check of my lack of privilege because if I were any more privileged, I would have like a big company under me,
Got it.
right?
Okay, I see.
No, but yeah, it is my way of checking for privilege. Like I realized, like because of this lockdown, you would hear news about Americans not being able to sustain themselves for more than 3 months. It's been more than 3 months, and I'm still doing fine.
Mm,
So in a way, yes, I am quite privileged that way. That no matter what happens, I never have to worry about food. or the other basic necessity internet connection.
Mm-hmm. And rent and also and all those things. Okay, awesome. And the selfish part. So like we understand there are incentive structures. What are
Yes.
the benefits you get out of helping?
So just a quick, like for context, when we built the unified dashboard, we were offered 1 million pesos as remuneration for the site, but we rejected because we thought it wasn't exactly fair to profit of one, a government that's struggling and
Mm.
full of like issues like what would happen in Phil Health, but also two, it's not fair to earn during a pandemic. So we rejected that payment and we did everything for free. The
Mm.
selfish part happens when you start getting attention. So I'm kind of a private person, but with the recent publication and features of Dashboard Philippines, the team that we have, we get a lot of support, and I kind of like that. So I kind of enjoy having my name out there, not because I want to be a big person, but because it attracts more opportunity my way. So Google came in, they gave us a lot of money to pay for our maps and server. DigitalOcean came in, they gave us a lot of money too, like in the millions, um, for us to run our entire process. But because of that, now we know people inside these big companies, and they know us, and they know the work we're doing. And so, like, I think after COVID, because we have proven our skill by building these products, it will be very easy to find more clients in the future. So like the too long didn't read version of this is, I do this for free now. I build my own name, and my team builds a name. Like our team builds a name, and yeah, if you want to do business and find clients, it should be a lot easier. In fact, like a lot of people have been approaching us for paid work, um, but we're not able to accept because of our current engagements. But yeah, that's the selfish part. Like I think I can earn money after this pandemic.
Mhm. I think that's awesome because like you're doing these things like mostly for like helping other people, but there are ways that it comes back. And I just really like the idea that there is money in doing good. And I think this is one example of that. Like you take initiative of helping out, and then because of that, providing more value than the money you receive, you gain these types of attention from different people, and then now opportunities are coming your way. So I think like after the pandemic, actually I've been reading books and people who are talking about when markets like go down, the people who win are those people who the most value for free during when it's an economic like turn like when the economy is going down. And I do see like in the medium term and the long term
Yeah.
you're gonna get like these like benefits soon because you're giving
Oh,
the
what's this book you're reading?
value during like bad times of the economy.
Dude, this sounds like a cool book. What book are you reading?
Unshakable by Tony Robbins. So
Okay.
it's essentially about like what to do during the times when the economy is falling down. So it's a kind of a growth and health, a growth and self-help development type of book. But I really like that insight. Now here's my question. So for the younger audiences out there who are in high school or in college who think that like they are too young to make a difference, so what they'll just do is just stay at home, maybe just study and do their classes. What's your message to them?
Okay. One is you're very, very wrong. Like when you're young, you can do something about it. For example, in our team right now, so like, if you go to our website, covid19.gov.ph, and you click health and any of the map geo analytics, you would see data points plotted out. Those data points were done by an 11-year-old.
Wow.
So his name is Troy Serapio, and like he's the most amazing kid. Like when we work with him, he's like, "Hi, Kuya Wes, what will I do today?" And I'm like, "Okay, Troy, we have all these locations, all these testing sites, all these cities, provinces. I need location data. and I sent him one giant JSON file, which is JavaScript object notation, like a file format. He gets it, and I think at first he was doing it manually, but he's like, I can do better. So open up Google Sheets, and Google Sheets has this API that connects to Google Maps. Start geocoding things programmatically on Google Sheets, and he sent back the coordinates to me. And then much later on, he's like, I can do more work. Sorry, and this is tone. I can do more work. So we made him do software dev. So some sites, like some sites on the page, like an 11-year-old built that with code, not like drag and drop, but like real code. And yeah, so if an 11-year-old can do it, any other 11-year-old can do it. I'm not sure about 10-year-olds. That's a different package.
That's 365 days too far.
There has to be like a minimum, but then
Gotta be 11.
Work, right?
Got it.
And a lot of our team members are actually college students. Like we have people from in the local colleges here and colleges overseas. They have nothing else better to do, so they come and they do analytics for us. Especially the Red Cross platform. We need a lot of help when it comes to communicating with local government units, communicating with different hospitals. Every time we build a feature, they have to create infographics for it. A lot of our team members are actually very young kids. Like in this organization, I am probably the third oldest.
Wow. Actually, I just really want to say, so I don't know, it's kind of a bit off topic, but I have a sense that we millennials and also like boomers or like other boomers are like saying, oh, these kids are what they're all doing is like TikTok and stuff like that, and they gotta learn from us millennials or us boomers and all that stuff, because back then we were better and more disciplined and yada yada yada. And my opinion on that is I think that older people ought to learn from younger people. I'm just wondering if you carry the same sentiment when it comes to like who should be learning from who.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's a generational competition. I think generations have like different forms of wisdom for every time. But I really do think the younger generation live in a different lifestyle that we have to learn from. I mean, TikTok's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? Like Microsoft wants to buy it. It's like a national issue. But I think if you are older, so we're millennials, they're Gen Z. Because we are older, we have to be aware of the world that they live in. I mean, one, so we can relate to them, but two, so we can still survive and thrive in an economy dominated by these people. Just to give a side note, like my grandfather, he's 80 plus already, I think 80, 86. But I talk to him more often over Viber and email. So like, he's one guy who's way like back, but he's still using the tools that millennials use today. Maybe not basic, but you get the point, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, he's not bored at home. He's able to stay engaged. Like he communicates with the people he works with over, these new tech platforms, and he's able to stay engaged. And I imagine like most retired people, what they do would be, play chess or just take long walks in the park. But if we're able to do the same and learn the newest trends and technologies for generations like after us, then by the time we're 8, we won't be bored. Like we will still be engaged with the world.
Right. I agree with you. And I just think that like languages evolve and languages, like new languages surface. And I just really feel that it would be beneficial for society as a whole if like older people would be more open to learning what younger people are doing. So for example, I think like a language, like coding is a language, and I think older people should be curious about what is this kid coding, because that spells the difference between like getting test results in a weekend, but in a weekend or like in a month and all that stuff. So I just really want to say that I appreciate you for seeing the value on how younger people can contribute and allowing them to join your team and trusting them with this big responsibility in terms of like data analytics for the country because we're facing this global pandemic. So I just also want to acknowledge you for that type of difference, not only that you do for in the national scale for data analytics, but how much confidence and how much purpose you instill to the younger generation. That even when I'm 11 years old, I can kick ass and do something for the country. And I just now here's my dilemma. Here's like where I'm curious at, because not everyone, like not all Gen Zers can code, and like I just don't know if other things such as I don't know, drawing, singing, dancing could be useful to contribute to the underprivileged or to society further. And yeah, I'm just brainstorming on the message that I'd like to tell them on these social media platforms in terms of like how, like what they can do and all that stuff. What's your take on that? So like, what if they don't know how to code? What would you say to inspire them or give them an insight in terms of like, how do you contribute and give back to the community?
So, okay, let's say if you are an artist and you draw, we actually need that skill. Sorry. So like one issue that we had is when we launch a new feature, we have to communicate that feature to our users.
Mm.
One of the most effective ways is by having infographics. And like me, I'm not artistic, or anyone on my team, Brian, Billy, JV, Martin, Miguel. We're not exactly artistic in that way.
Mm.
So we have to find artists to jump on and sort of meet us halfway. Like we do code. They should not just draw on paper, but they should draw on Illustrator or Photoshop or Sketch. And when we meet halfway in that digital space, then we can use our artwork. So, for example, on the COVID-19 side, all the artwork there is done by Leslie Lim, who is a graphics designer, not exactly technical, but because she's able to produce these works, it becomes more visually appealing, right?
Mm.
Singing, I don't really know. Like that's not my space anymore.
Yeah, no, actually, so no, I'm getting a really beautiful insight here. And I think it's about even if you don't know how to do technical stuff and you don't know how to do coding and all these like serious stuff, I think what the younger generation or like people in general could do is see where are the gaps and how could I contribute in those particular gaps. So like what I'm thinking now after what you said about like graphic design and trying to communicate these, like how does this data work, and you know like some people understand numbers, other people understand shapes and like the
Yeah.
science of it and all that stuff. So there are different ways to communicate these things. So I was just wondering like what happens if it's like for dancing. And one gap that I see because of the pandemic is that people aren't as active anymore because they can't go to gyms any, like they can't gym. Yeah, and then I just think like people who just love dancing and know that they capture a niche of people or adults who like anime, and they can make like a Zumba dance out of like anime background music. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
make people have the natural incentive to just stand up and dance to this like freaking, you know, hype me up anime songs and all that stuff. So if you know how to dance and you want to contribute to the public health and whatever, and the gap there, Kasi, is that if you're healthy, you're less likely to die from COVID-19. You know what I mean? Like if you are not obese, like you have 40%, last time I checked, more chances of surviving than people who are obese. So like I just see that insight. Like if you are someone who loves dancing or whatever, then create Zumba classes for different niches that would make them stand up and like create more resistance and immunity. So that's the insight that I got from you sharing that, and I just think that's awesome.
I
Yeah.
was also thinking, so let's say in your case, you're an amazing communicator. Right now, because of the lockdown, it's going to be harder for people to interact with other people. So you're doing a really good job by hosting this podcast because people need to know what's going on out there. And you being a connector, the communicator, you do what you do best. where you bring people together and just talk to them and have a conversation about whatever is happening. And I think you provide value right now by delivering information to other people. Like for other people, podcast could be entertainment. But for me, it's to let everyone know what we're doing. So if people are interested, they can join us and we build a bigger effort. So
Yeah,
yeah, like
I think that I thank you for that acknowledgement. So like I see that I could like help in a gap, like fill up a gap because not everyone takes the time to read the articles and know the amazing things that Dashboard is doing. But some people are more of listeners than readers. And so here's my message to the audience if like some people are watching is that if you're a talkative person and you know people are doing important shit like I don't know making gardens that make our air cleaner, then talk to them and give them a platform where they could share more about their project or their business or their initiatives. So actually anyone who likes talking, like I like talking, like I don't stop talking, can fill up a gap because many people can't like sustain their attention when it comes to reading articles and reading numbers and all that stuff. Yeah, I think I think that is
talking,
dope.
like
Mhm.
there's ideas in your head.
Sorry.
Like not just talking, but being able to structure ideas in your head. Kind of like a debater.
Right. Definitely. You want to talk about debate for
Yeah, sure, man.
okay, because this is my here's my thing. So there's a rise of online tournaments happening everywhere. And I just think that all kinds of things that surface online someday will turn into a commercial commodity. Not entirely
Yeah.
sure how, but like for example, basketball, broadcasting on TV, but now it's online when you get your NBA premium. And I'm just wondering, do you see that in the future of debate where there are like pro debaters and like there's like a room, like a digital room where we get to watch these pro debaters and pro judges, and it's something that people would consume regarding social issues, especially with the fact that it's so unhealthy when we debate on Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok because like everything's polarized. But when it's actually debaters debating with all these nuances, do you think there's a potential for that to happen in the future?
Okay, so I'm breaking this question down into two parts. One would be the commercial value of
Mm,
watching college debate, and the second part would be would there be an industry of hosting online debates, not necessarily for viewership, but for um, competition's sake. So on the commercial value of watching these debates, like the older I get, the more I think that college debating won't be that attractive to watch for most people. It's because when we're young, we think we know what the world really is like, but then a lot of the practical experiences don't really factor in our argumentation. So really, the debate is just like it's a play of ideas that isn't grounded in real life. Like
mm.
I remember when I was younger, we would debate on military strategy, the AFP debates. And I'm like, at that time, I thought I was the shit because I knew like what MILF was doing. I know how language affects people. But then when I think about it, I'm like, dude, we're a bunch of non-military trained people debating on military policy for generals. I don't think these generals would be engaged. Like, they're just like, oh, look at these kids, they're so cute.
Got it.
That's what I feel. Like, it's going to be a very small percentage of gifted debaters who will actually deliver speeches that will be commercially viable for viewership. Right?
Got it. Actually, I've been reading a book called Skin in the Game by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And one chapter he dedicated to is called Intellectual Yet Idiot. And the intellectual yet idiot are people who would be debating and talking about macro and treating poverty as a construct without ever talking to someone who has ever experienced poverty. at the end.
Yeah.
So that's why they call it like an intellectual yet idiot, because yeah, sure, you can win a debate, but does that really convince someone who is actually like hungry or like doesn't know where this next meal is going to come from? And now my question now is, in order for a debater to have a holistic sense of the world, not necessarily just on debating and then like getting points and getting ballots from judges, what do you think is a good step for debaters?
I think,
My
yeah, you're running out of battery. Hello?